Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, coaches around the world, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's your boy, Road Dogg. With none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Karl Bryan is in practice today, ready to serve up and surgically remove any of the problems that you have inside of your coaching business.
Oh, shoot, you poetic. Son of a gun, you. Well done. And I am not a doctor. I don't know if the doctor thing. Somebody's going to be like, oh my God, he's put himself. I am not a doctor. I do not have a PhD. I am not a medical doctor, most definitely. And not only am I not, but they'd look at my application and use it as toilet paper because that's all it'd be worth. So I'm not a doctor, ladies and gentlemen.
At the end of the day, you are a PhD. You're a pretty handsome dude. There it is.
Oh, nice. Road Dogg, you're trying to get on my good side here today, Sheets. Yeah. What's going on? I'm not used to this.
And I don't even know why I'd want to be on your good side right now. That's good. All right, listen. To get onto your bad side, your jokes are terrible.
Nice. Oh, come on. What do you mean?
You what's this? You conversations with your wife. Your wife says you call an older woman who dates younger men a cougar. What's an older man that dates younger women called? Rich. I love that. He says, in all seriousness, when we were hiking the other day with the dogs, I think I saw a cougar. You replied with, yeah, I almost poo my pants. No? And I love how you're now going to refer to your drunk aunt no longer as a cougar, but as a hands-on approach life coach. Listen, buddy, your family dinners are far more exciting than mine. That's all I got to say about that.
Oh, buddy, you're a champ. Anyways, there you go, folks. You're not getting the jokes. Spend a lot of time on those bad boys. Get on the email list, ladies and gentlemen.
Listen, I may be on the email list, Karl. I may be on the email list, and I read the jokes, and sometimes I still don't get them. So there you go.
You wouldn't be the only one, so don't worry about that. My wife gets them, which I end up in trouble consistently. Anyways, what's going on, Shoots? We got some questions. What are we doing here, bud?
Yeah. So this is sort of a continuation. Last week, we talked about frameworks for doing a presentation. I believe that was last week. Anyways, the question here that came in was just asking if you can go a little bit deeper and just sort of help them with that. So again, just frameworks, obviously, especially you and I, probably more so than a lot of other people, love talking about live events. And but anyways, so with that in mind, I would assume that that's what they're talking about. I'm sure a lot of this could probably be converted to some sort of online format, but the general question was here, a framework for doing a presentation, and if you could dive deeper into that.
Boom. Okay. Yeah, I think that was last week we talked about that. So I think, so last week what we talked about is, okay, so here's a framework. I'm about to do a presentation. I've got a proper amount of time. Let's call that at least 1 hour. 2 hours would be much better than one. So you can go deeper and educate them at a higher level, yada, yada, yada. But here's a framework. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them, and then tell them what you just told them, right? So an example, we'll go over 3 simple steps to driving traffic online for your coaching business, as an example. And then 2, so then that would be, number 1 would be 3 simple steps. And then I would give them, I'm going to explain leads, I'm going to explain conversion, and then I'm going to explain fulfillment. Okay. So today, guys, I'm going to go over 3 simple steps to driving traffic online. It's going to be lead, conversion, fulfillment. That's what I'm about to tell you. Right. And then I tell you Okay, so what was number one? I said leads. So I would talk about leads, and then I would give them a framework for generating leads, like here's how you do it. Again, ideally 1, 2, 3, A, B, or C. That's section we'll call it number 2, because section number 1 is tell them what you're going to tell them. Section number 2 is tell them. Section number 3 is tell them what you just told them, right? So that was number 1. Number 2 is I'm explaining leads, I'm explaining conversion, and I'm explaining fulfillment. This is where I'm delivering value. And if they don't buy from me or they do buy from me, at the end of the day, they're going to walk out of the room and they're going to understand those 3 things. And then what I would do is tell them what I just told them. Say, guys, we've been here for an hour. I've been here for 2 hours. What you just learned is this. You now have 3 simple steps. No need to overcomplicate. No need to, go down rabbit holes. The 3 steps to, driving traffic online for your coaching business is 1, 2, and 3. Congratulations. And then, by the way, and that's it. You tell them what you're going to tell them. You tell them, then tell them what you just told them. Now, if I wanted to close you, okay, so I'm going to get you to stand up, run to the back of the room, and hand over your credit card. What I would do is I would basically rewind the 3 things that I just described, and I would give you solution to all 3 of them. So if you buy today, you stand up and you race to the room, and you're one of the first 100 people to buy XYZ and hand me your credit card for $2,000 or whatever number it is, you are going to get part 1 of my program is lead generation. I am going to solve your problem. You are never going to have to worry about leads ever again after, completing and doing my program. The second thing that I'm going to do, if you buy from me, is we're going to talk about conversion. I am going to provide you a framework. I am provide you the solution to everything you're ever going to want to know about getting in front of somebody and effectively getting their credit card and having them jump for joy and salivate in order to do so. That's number 2. And 3, after you've generated the lead and then you fulfillment, you're going to have to fulfill. So the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to solve your problem on fulfillment, blah, blah, blah. And that's how basically I'm just rewinding the 3 steps. So that is what we talked about. Here's something internally, with our internal, like my clients that are working with our software and whatnot. What if you only have 15 minutes? Okay, so you go to, which is common, and not everybody feel comfortable, getting up there for 1 to, whatever number of hours to deliver a massive amount of value. Fear of public speaking could be part of it. A lack of experience and a fear of question can be part of it, which, by the way, I'd get over that. But if you've only got 15 minutes, what I would encourage you to do before I started, and you gave me 15 minutes with your audience, I would 1,000,000% start with this in my head. I would say, what is the learning objective of the 25 people in the room when I am done? What am I trying to accomplish? What is the, what's the learning objective? What do I want them to walk out the back door? Whether they buy from me or not, fill out the form or not, speak to me ever again or not, what do I want them to walk away and understand? Right? So I would create that. And just as a little bit of a film over that conversation, and probably the other framework, and I've talked about this a lot, but I just continue to talk about it because it's so important. As a film over top of my presentation is I would be standing against, rather than singing Kumbaya. And again, internally, we talk about this to death, but it's so important. And what I mean by that is jumping up and down and saying how amazing, like goal setting. Gosh, all you got to do is understand reticular activating system. You ever bought a red Toyota and notice that there's red Toyotas everywhere? Well, if you can, blah, 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 blah. I think we might have talked about this last week. Road Dog, did we go over this last week? You tell me, the red Toyota reticular activating system. Do you remember? I just don't want to repeat myself.
I literally just had this conversation yesterday, but I don't. Repetition.
No. Look,
I believe they say repetition is the mother of all skills. So let's just keep going.
Okay, nice. So bottom line is goal setting. The average coach will get up there and talk about goal setting, get all pumped up, and say it's going to be so amazing, and explain the reticular activating system, and say, if you ever bought a red Toyota, and then you jump in the Toyota, and you're like, there's red Toyotas everywhere, but you didn't see them yesterday before you bought it. How does that work? Right? And it's like, and this is going to be the thing that once we set your sights on your goal, your reticular activating system is going to kick into gear, and it's going to allow you to see all of the things that you need in order to gain the skills and the contacts and the network in order to accomplish your goal, blah, blah, blah. That's kumbaya, which is okay. And that's got a place in your presentation. What I'd be doing is doing something like stand against that, right? Like, why do most people set how many people that set a New Year's resolution accomplish it? Well, it never happens. And then I'd be like, why? So here's what I do. Like, what about if you had instead of celebrating, creating New Year's resolutions, what if you did quarterly resolutions? And then that way, every 3 months, you're setting your goals. Wouldn't you accomplish maybe a little bit more if you were doing that 4 times a year strategically? And by the way, I'm your coach and I'm going to hold you accountable like that. So I'm standing against, goal setting once a year. I explain that it never actually works, which I'd be correct and they know it. And then I'd say, well, my solution to that is X, Y, Z. And you come up with 100 different examples and frankly, a lot better than that. But as a film over top with my learning objective, as opposed to jump up and down and sing kumbaya, that's rampant in the coaching space. And I'd be a little bit careful with that. I might look, when you're having a presentation, three words, good to write these down, certainly commit them to memory, but it's cognitive, emotional, physical. The worst thing that you can do is stand up there and just spit things at people and not have them emotionally invested and physically invested. And again, our boy Tony Robbins, personally, I love him. You might love him, you might hate him. He's very successful and you'd be crazy not to learn from what he's doing. And that's that. What does he do? He gets you up. He gets people crying. It's just, there's a very emotional, like the music, the massages, all that sort of stuff going through is all designed to entertain you and elevate your emotional state in a very real and tangible way. So there's cognitive is Road Dog, you should wake up at 5 a.m. every morning. You'd accomplish more. And he goes, yeah, I know that. I've heard that before. Sure. I'm going to do it. And of course he doesn't do it. Right. And then emotional is, look, Road Dog, if you woke up at 5 a.m. and you currently wake up at 7 a.m., wouldn't we be creating like two extra hours in your day? And by the way, what time do the kids wake up? Well, they wake up at 7. So wouldn't you have 2 hours on your own? And imagine if you worked on your business instead of in your business. Could you imagine how much more you'd accomplish? Well, let's do some math here quickly. By the end of the year, you'll put another $350,000 in your bank account as a result of that, something like that, right? Emotionally attach it to them, right? So if you wake up, let's do it. And then physical, what we do is we set the alarm clock, get them up at 5 o'clock every morning for 21 days. And then what happens on day 22? He no longer needs the alarm clock. It automatically happens and he's got the benefit of the extra 2 hours, right? So you see how cognitive we explain it. We attach an emotional reason. Maybe it's making more money. Maybe it's more time with his kids. Maybe it's more sex with his wife. Maybe it's whatever it is, an emotional reason, and then physical. I think that's important. And then Road Dog, I'm going pretty deep here, but I might look, here's another framework. Like business coaching mastery in Cancun. I started the day. I basically presented for the vast majority of day number 1. I didn't have a confidence monitor. I didn't have a bunch of PowerPoints with a zillion different slides. I basically just talked for, hours on end without a framework. And I did have some slides and I had one word on 90% of the slides. Not trying to pat myself on the back, but I'm not like, what's the guy's name? Jim Quick. Like I'm not like a master, memory guy. That's not what I am. What I had was a framework. A framework would look like this. So if I was going to do a long presentation, I really wanted to crush it. Here's the one that I use and has been very successful for me. You might be able to steal it, use it exactly, or you might want to adjust it. But just 3 words: question, problem, solution. This is a little bit different than the way number 1, tell them what I'm going to tell them, and then tell them what you just told them would kind of be like my selling framework. And then this would be the one when I really want to jog the audience and I want to send them away. Like with my clients as an example, this would be the framework that I would use as opposed to the other one. And there's a place for each you'll need to do. There's people way better than I to teach you on this stuff, but hopefully this will help you on your journey, certainly give you a foundation. So question, problem, solution. So I asked the audience a question. And if you listen to Tony Robbins talk, you're going to find all he does is just ask you a bunch of questions. And then you wonder why you feel so hypnotized by him. That's his hack. Okay. Question. is time. So time management we'll assume is going to be part of my presentation, and it probably should be if you're a business coach, because you got energy and time. That's it. There's the foundation, right? Is time using you, or you using time, right? Or, do you know what 80-20 is, or something to that effect? But I'd ask a question around time management, intentionally drawn towards that. And I go, the problem, well, I'd say, well, most people have heard, like I said, 80-20. So do you have a time management schedule, and are you using 80-20? And then the problem is most people have heard of 80-20, and then because they've heard of it, they think that they know it. But when we do about 2 minutes of research, we can, clearly see they're not exercising it in any way, right? Like, again, if you have 10 things to do, there's 2 things on the to-do list that basically are 80% of the value. So you should just drop the other 8 and go immediately to the 2, right? That's the solution. So the solution is to basically identify your 80-20, take 10 things, identify the 2, and then really what you should do at the beginning of the day, if you just came up with 3 things that you're going to accomplish in any one day, because Road Dog's not getting done his to-do list, I'm not getting done mine, Tony Robbins isn't getting through his to-do list today. Identify 3 things that you're going to accomplish every single day. Do those, and then what will happen is you will get momentum so that you will get so many more of the other 8 tasks knocked over, it'll blow your mind, right? Moral of the story is have a framework when you're doing your presentation, because at the end of the day, remember, it's not about you, not about Road Dog, it is about your audience. You got 10, 25, 50, 100, 500, 5,000 people in the audience. It's not about you. It's not about how much money you can make. It's about delivering the absolute, as much value as you possibly can. So I know that starting with the framework is going to make a lot of sense. So Road Dog, that's my, I think what they're looking for there was tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you told them. But again, I wouldn't, there's other frameworks and whatnot, as you know. What do you think, bud?
It's pretty cool that we look up to the same people. The difference for me is I'm typically sitting down. So there's that. Hey, listen, I just wanted to go a little deeper on that, just because when you're talking presentations, that totally blew over your head, which, again, there's a joke right there. Like, all these short jokes are just coming to me today, dude. It's unreal. Oh, my God. It's too much. I hope somebody caught that, because it was comedic gold. Anyways, listen.
You're good.
When we talk about doing presentations, I just want to go a little bit deeper on that, because we've talked about it before, and practicing the presentation. Like, I just think it's so important. Can you talk about that? Like, how do you practice your presentation? Because again, it's easy for you to give a frame, but if they're just going to blow it anyways, what's the point of even getting up on stage? Right? Like, this is the whole thing.
Agreed.
So run people through how you practice.
Yeah. Okay. So I like it. Just got to make sure that you know your stuff. And this comes back to respecting your audience. And no doubt, and as we say that, everybody, of course, respect your audience. It's platitudinal, but again, show me how much practice you did before your presentation, and we know how good you were going to do your presentation. And remember, it's not about that specific presentation. The framework is to build, a body of work so you can ultimately get that compounding effect and really crush it. But here's what I do is, actually, here's the problem that I see, right? Is that people will practice the first, we'll call it their opening, and the first 1/3 of their presentation for like 80% of the time that they spend practicing. And then they never get to, the bottom part of the middle. And then very importantly, don't get to the close. And let me tell you, when you do a presentation, there's 2 parts that are most important by kind of a long way if your goal is to really impact them. And that's coming in, like the opening. It's funny. You see somebody walking into the ocean, and you can tell, like, if this guy's a local, you can kind of tell this guy's like a surfer. He walks into the water with a little bit of purpose, and the water doesn't really affect them. And then somebody who's not used to ocean water, which is a little bit on the cold side, they walk in and then take a step back to do. Like, it's pretty obvious for everybody at the beach to know kind of what's going on. Or my dad always said, and I've said this on the podcast before, when you jump on a horse, the horse knows who's in control long before you do. right? With, again, the purpose, the way that you hold yourself, the way you grab the reins, the way you squeeze your legs to do. So they know. So your opening is absolutely critical, and your close is one that you should know upside down, right side back, right side up, to do. So practice those. But so what I do is I start at the end and I move towards the beginning. Once I've got myself comfortable, and I would definitely start with a table of contents. When I write a book, I build intellectual property, which I've done for 2 decades, maybe more. Long time, built intellectual property. That's, like it's what we do in a lot of ways, right? With the company, turn it into software, but it's intellectual property. Start with a table of contents, right? And most of it's like, imagine if you built a golf course without plans. Imagine if you built a house without plans. It would never happen. And then I want you to think of, if you've ever seen the plans of a house getting built, how detailed are they? How many pages are there? And it is just unbelievable. Well, the plans for the average business, unfortunately, and I'm not talking about a business plan that you walk in, and get off the internet and you walk into the bank so you can get, 80 grand or 800 grand or whatever number you're looking for. I'm talking about like a roadmap, something that's talking about profitability. Anyways, Road Dog, the framework that I use is I get to know my presentation. I always start with a table of contents, but once I've got it, like when I did, a full day in Cancun, I start at the end and then move my way to the beginning, because I know I'm always going to get the first third, and that's the problem most people have. So that's how I do it.
The other thing I just want to add to that as well, one thing that I like to do is take a deep breath before I start.
Yep.
And I always take off my watch. And then that way it's right beside, I do, because it's beside my notes, because what do I typically do? I just want to blast through it, right? Like, slow
nice.
down, because odds are good. What I think is going so painfully slow, others are like, oh my God, I can't even keep up, right? So that's probably another mistake that most people would make, is probably going way too fast, trying to power through everything. So there's that. The one other thing, because now again you've got my brain going on this presentation thing. How do you? Because there's always going to be somebody in the audience, right? That's going to want to either be like me, joke too much with you, or maybe they're a bit of a smart ass, or maybe they want to, kind of almost put on display how smart they are. Like, how do you keep certain people in check? How do you keep control, especially when you're asking questions? Like, how do you maintain that control? Do you have any tricks to that?
Nice. Yes. High five, by the way, because again, that can be a little bit challenging, because you do want interaction, but you don't want somebody to take over. I'll tell you this before I answer. I used to own a hockey rink, and I did a lot of hockey coaching. When I started a hockey school, my spidey senses, they get on the rink. My 150 moment was to identify who the smartass is. And normally it's one of the, if it's not the best kid, it's one of the top 5 for sure, almost always. To identify who that is, and really early, I get him to help me. Hey, buddy, like I need somebody to move the pucks. I'll always go pat him on the butt and say, hey, buddy, how's it going? Hey, you're a pretty good skater. Hey, see those pucks there? Hey, can you do this for me? And then he, you know what I mean? Like, so I get him on side. If you've got that room, I would identify who that guy is immediately, and it's going to be real obvious. Anyway, so here's what I do though. All questions, because that guy will want to start talking to everybody else in the room. So I say, guys, if we could, we've only got 2 hours together, and my goal is the same as your goal, and that is to get as much value as possible for today. I would like all questions to be channeled through me. So let's say that somebody is giving an answer and you want to answer, Dave, over on the other side of the room, can you please channel it to me, and then I'll, go through me, and then I will repeat your question, the answer. Maybe he's going to hear it, but I want it channeled through me so we can keep control of the room. So that's how I do it. But I got to tell you, Road Dog, it's experience, it's confidence, and it's knowing your stuff. I'd like to, but also, so if somebody asks, okay, well, here's what you do. Somebody asks me a question and then I don't know what it is. You know what I mean? What you got to do, in fact, we talked about this recently. I think you actually said it, but like, you throw it back to them. First of all, compliment them on their question. That gives you, 1 to, like a second or 2 to percolate your thoughts. but also go back, like, so what do you mean by that? Like, I know you said X, Y, Z, but what do you mean by that? And then that gives me more time to think about what my answer is, to recalibrate my thoughts, etc. So, but Road Dog, but for anybody listening though, because what I don't want to do is psych everybody out, Road Dog, right? Like no, generally speaking, I would dare say, actually, I ran a few presentations a while ago where I guaranteed to solve any business coaching problem on the spot. And by the way, when I launched my coaching, well, not so much when I launched my coaching career, but very early on, what I used to do a presentation for business owners where I guaranteed to solve any marketing problem on the spot. And don't think I wasn't pooping my pants then. And don't think even before I ran, like, I had some pretty heavy hitters, enroll into the solve any business coaching problem on the spot presentations. I mean, I wasn't sure what I was going to be answering, right? So don't think I wasn't a little bit nervous. So it's, I just don't want anybody getting worried about that, because it's very rare. But you know what? You got to be able to control that room, and you got to, when I say stick your chest out, right? Like Michael Jordan, stand there like Superman and just control it. So that's my answer. Shoot.
Yeah. So now let's take the next step. Okay. So now you've done your presentation, you've crushed it. You've had a follow up. You're at the close. Yep. You're good to go. Listen, Carlos, here's the deal, bud. Like, I love what you can do for me. Is there a way that we can barter and maybe exchange services? Because we had a question come in about, like, what's your opinion on barter? Like, because that's something a lot of people run into, and I think we've all faced that, where people are just like, well, I'm just going to exchange services. I know I've got my opinions on it, but I'd love to get your take on what do you think about it, and B, how do you handle it?
Yeah. Look, barter is underused, an incredibly powerful technique. You'll see that barter has flourished. Well, that's an exaggeration, but it becomes more popular during tough economic times when cash is low. The words of my father, if you can't get a full meal, grab a sandwich, right? So when the economy turns, and it will, there's going to be some hard times ahead for many business owners. The ones that are going to be able to think outside the box are the ones that are going to survive and, potentially thrive, right? Again, some of the biggest companies in the world were built during very difficult economic times. That's a bit of a shot in the arm and a little bit of excitement for the rest of us. And it's things like this, just thinking outside, like barter, and again, I just underused, right? When I started my advertising company in my late teens, I used to trade ads for pasta, yes, actually dinner, car repairs. I remember I got a futon bed, which I was just insanely excited about. Like, I desperately wanted this futon bed, and I'm like, hey. So I went in and said, hey man, do you want an ad? I wanted that bed. And the guy said, that's clever. Yes. And of course the bed, I have no idea, but let's just assume the bed was maybe $200. This was many, many, many years ago, but it would have only cost him $100, right? And it was $200 retail. So yeah, basically made the exchange, and I got the bed that I wanted. I didn't even basically know what the hell it was, and I guess I was kind of bartering at a young age, right? But this technique can increase, purchasing power for the average business owner dramatically. So, like, maybe like some things that I would think about, right? Like, don't create time limits, right? Part of the appeal of barter is they can just get it when they get to it, right? I'll tell you, like gift cards, they often don't ever get to it. If your clients have the capacity to create gift cards, you want to do it, because in a lot of cases, it's just going to be a good bloody strategy. Let's put it that way. Go to your ideal clients and offer a direct trade, of goods and services. Always offer the retail value and not the cost, right? I said it with the futon, right? Like, it's $200 retail, and the fact that it cost him $100. Often, what the business owner does, elementary mistake on steroids, but they're thinking it's $100, right? When clearly it's $200, right? Like, we do this, like, we provide an online business academy / online business school / membership site, kind of all encompassing for our clients. And they can go to an accountant or a radio station or a promotional company or a bookkeeper or a networking group, anybody B2B, and then they can offer 12-month memberships, right? Well, the retail value on those memberships, $500 a month. It would be up to each individual that owns their own school, but like it's worth, have you ever seen it? The 52 weeks, they all coalesce, they all run into one another. I mean, it's unbelievable 52-week curriculum. I mean, it's just undeniable that. But bottom line is, at $500 a month, which is $6,000 a year, it's ridiculously good value. But let's say you go to their website and it's only $100 because they're selling it online, and things online are less expensive than things offline. It's kind of a 101. Well, like debatably, so when they go to the accountant, do they use the number 1,200 as in 100 a month by 12, or do they use the number 500 as in $6,000 for the 12-month membership, right? And by the way, if you go to the accountant, you go to the magazine and you offer them 10 memberships that are worth $6,000 each, that's $60,000 of value. And again, we've talked about this different times in past podcasts, but like when I want to go to a JV, I want to show up as Santa Claus, not the Grinch. So go there waving gifts around, as opposed to going, hey, send out an email to all your folks, and when they buy from me, I'll start paying you. And if they stop paying me, I'll stop paying you. Do you know what I mean? The stupidity of that is, hopefully pretty obvious, but that's what tends to happen, right? So like, what do you have to offer the accountant? What can you give him for free? And the whole idea of having your own online business school and a 52-week curriculum, and I don't need to meet the accountant promotional company, that they deal with a lot of businesses that are struggling, right? And you just look at the stats, 80% fail almost immediately, right? So believe me, most of his clients are having a tough time. So if he was able to bundle your membership at $6,000 with his thing, imagine how that could change things, right? Like the promotional company, let's say his average first order is like $2,500. Well, if you do a $5,000 order first time, I'm going to throw in the $6,000 membership to my buddy xyzbusinessacademy.com, right? So hopefully you can see how you could bundle that in. Okay, but that's what's important here, is that we're using the retail value of $6,000 a year and $60,000 for 10 memberships, as opposed to, like $1,200 for the year, right? So anyways, and by the way, like, so then I'm thinking like a business coach, like what could you could go get digital marketing services in exchange for your high-end coaching services, right? So somebody does digital marketing, or you could get them to do a digital marketing presentation. We've been talking about presentations till we're blue in the face today, right? So I'll do your coaching, and I've got, let's just say I've got 20 clients, and I think 10 of them will buy. Well, let's say you charge $2,000 for a 4-hour XYZ on digital marketing. 10 people say yes. What's that? $20,000, and you get it for free because you're doing coaching. And then, by the way, you sell it 4 times a year. That could be an extra $80,000 in your skyrocket, all profit. Boom. But you're bartering. There's lots of different ways you could do it. And also sports, like, trading deadlines coming up in hockey as we talk, right? Like, there's going to be a lot of 3-way trades, right? How could you go about creating a third party? Could you hook up the digital marketer, the accountant, and your coaching/consulting services? Could that work well? And I'll tell you this, no one else is doing it. So if nothing else, you're going to stand out a little bit. You'll probably get these guys on the phone, which the deal may or may not come together. Hopefully it does. But, the biggest threat that you've got is not being known. What's that saying, Road Dog? It's not what you know, it's who you know. Okay, that horse pucky. It's who knows you, right? That's the real X factor. Who knows you? If they don't know you, and frankly, that's because you hide behind your computer and hide from the phone as well, rather than picking it up and reaching out and, delivering value and doing Facebook Lives and doing live presentations and going to the chamber and going to the networking groups and going to the yacht club and going to the, the golf course and wherever else you can go and, put your mug and deliver value, and then show up solving problems. Don't show up, hey, I wonder if I can get a client here. That's your mistake, right? Show up delivering value. Show up, standing against. Show up saying things that are, clever that not everybody else is saying, right? And by the way, Road Dog, can't talk about barter and then not talk about the tax savings, right? Which could absolutely blow your mind. Remember, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And there's lots of new apps and software. And I don't ask me which ones, because I got no idea, but that will help you with barter management and that sort of stuff. So these technologies have opened the door for, I think, what could be a thriving barter marketplace, which has never really taken off. One day it might, maybe it won't, but who cares what's going in the broader marketplace? You want to make 250 grand easily with your business coaching. It's not just about money straight in the bank account. What you make the 250 so that you can do X, Y, Z, right? Like, you see a football player that's making many millions of dollars a year driving a BMW. Well, very common. I don't know if this falls into barter, but I guess it does. Could be sponsorship. But the football player, the professional athlete, is driving the car for free, right? On the back of, he's showing up to all the games. The kids see him. The parents see him. He's signing autographs outside of his Ford as opposed to his Maserati. And by the way, that's what the smart ones do. And then the stupid ones, of course, go spend, $1 million on a Bugatti or $500,000 cash on their car, and then wonder why they retire and they're flat broke because they don't think about these types of things. Anyways, I don't know. So barter, Road Dog, not sure if I'm doing this justice, but and again, experts out there about a million times smarter than I will ever be. It's not something that I actively, study or, involved in. So I think you should be encouraging. I think you should be thinking about it. I think your clients should be thinking about it. I think it could be one of those things, like you said, the three-way deal. I think that's something that other people aren't doing that may or may not come to fruition. Ideally it does, but it might get you talking to the accountant at a higher level, like, get creative. So I don't know. What do you think, Road Dog? You like?
Well, I'm thinking, can you stick around after just to help me figure out a strategy that I can barter with RBC for my mortgage? Like, is that the possibility? Listen, but I was thinking this, though, depending on your cash flow situation, because typically you'd want to barter for things that are not tax deductible first, right? From a sheer tax planning perspective. But if, again, you can't afford the marketing, hey, there's a great one for you. But just take a look. And by the way, if you don't have a monthly budget, maybe get on that. But if take a look at your monthly budget and take a look at what you spend and take a look at where maybe there's a service that you're already using that you could go to and maybe barter and save yourself a few bucks, and all it's going to cost you is time, right? Like, I'm just looking at mine. I'm like, well, there's like a meal prep company, right? Again, like I could.
Yeah.
Great example, right? But now with that in mind, though, I know we're up against the clock here, but with that in mind, pricing, like, that's the first thing that comes to my mind, right? Like, do you give a discount? You know what I mean? Like, because isn't that what typical like people do? It's like they put themselves in these situations where they then, by bartering, or they discount their services. Because I know I've gotten myself in a position where it's like, you want to win them over and then you discount and then you end up getting resentful. But like, how do you stay true to your price, or are you okay to bend on your price?
Yeah.
And I would say, if you are, I'd probably say only short term, but what are your thoughts?
I would say, look, my mind goes to second, third, fourth order. It depends, right? Like, okay, as an example, Road Dog, you're coaching to do, and this is an accountant, right? It's like, it comes back to 80-20 and then magnifying, and you end up at 150. The accountant has 400 clients. And if you bring it home and you deliver massive value for that individual, that one guy, especially if he likes you and he sees the results he could send you enough clients for the next 3 years, right? So I would absolutely bend. So I refer to this, instead of selling through, instead of selling to, you want to think of it as selling through, right? So same thing, the promotional company. What did I say earlier? If their average unit of sale straight up is 2,500, and they bundle you and your online business academy or your group coaching or your one-to-one consultation so that they can increase their unit of sale to $5,000, which, by the way, will work. And those numbers will need to be played with because I'm literally spitting them out as I'm talking. But like whatever the unit of sale is, jack it up and throw yourself in the middle. This is a good scenario. Would I be willing to discount my fees? Would I be willing to bend over backwards? And the answer is abso-stinking-lutely. It's just a 150 thing. It's like, so what was I was talking to somebody about a modeling agency last week. Like here's an example. Like you own a modeling agency and you want to crush it. I got to tell you, you got to find out who, like, you got to get the top model locally and then don't do your best, do whatever it takes to get them in. And then everybody's going to say what? Well, everybody knows that top model locally. So when the modeling agency is, canvassing and looking for more models to bring in, they just say, like Kate Moss, just off the, Tyra Banks, whatever, like the Kate Moss Jr., the Tyra Banks Jr. Is under our agency. Do you want to be? It immediately, that's the sales pitch. The same way, Tom Brady's got an agent. And then what do people say? They don't even say their agent's name. They say, my agent's the same as Tom Brady. And the same happened with Wayne Gretzky. And the same happens with all the, top athletes in the world, right? Your agent is Connor McDavid's agent, who's Bobby Orr, by the way. But you know what I mean? Like the power of that it's insane. So would I be willing? So if I was going to coach, I'm a dog, I own a doggy daycare, right? And Tom Brady's wife is looking for a doggy daycare. Maybe she doesn't even know she's looking for a doggy daycare. And I say, Giselle, tell you what, I'm going to pick your dog up in a limo. I'm going to wash him personally on the way in the limo, on the way to the doggy daycare. I'm going to look after him for how long? 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Look, it's playoffs. Why don't you give him to me for a month? I'll personally walk him every single day. I'll bring him my dogs. He'll sleep in my bed with me, Giselle, right? Bring me your dog. Because what I'm going to do from now on, like I'm going to talk about how Tom Brady's dog and Giselle's dog is hanging out with their dog. You know what I mean? Or Tom Brady chooses my doggy daycare over all of the others. Doesn't matter if you're charging them, if you're giving them a discount, whatever. And maybe, by the way, you charge them 3 times as much. But really, what I'd be willing to do is do whatever it takes to get her in, to get that dog in there, because it's going to help you market. It's like those 150 things, right? So you know what I mean? You kind of get it. Like Road Dogg is just, it depends, on the individual. And by the way, Road Dogg, the coach that's listening, do they have 15 clients and they're flat out? Well, then I would hold steady. Do they have 2 clients and still learning, and need to expand their network to do? Well, then I'd be willing to do significantly more. So it's little red arrow, you are here. It's what do you want? And the coaching is the line in between. But those 2 things sound easy. Finding those 2 points is where all the work is. And as you get better at coaching, the quicker you can do it and the better you get at identifying what they really are. Because remember, if you ask somebody what they want, they will immediately respond with what they don't want, with like 80 to 95% predictability. So people are not really good at knowing what they want is the moral of that story. So as a good coach, you get more strategic and better at pulling that out. So there you go, Shoots. That's my answer, bud. All
right. Lots of to-do's today. I don't even think you realize you're doing it. That is ba-doop. That's all, folks. I think that's something to wrap it up here today.
Nice.
Listen here, big shooter. What's the one thing? You're all about the one thing. You are Mr. One Thing. You're Dr. One Thing. What's the one thing that anybody listening can implement into their practice today?
What's the one thing? I think we talked a lot about presentations. I just think before they do a presentation, before I do a presentation, but definitely before you do a presentation, before somebody does a presentation, it's like, what's your framework, building up, like, don't think framework, just think 1, 2, 3, 1 through 5. Like what's the game plan? Like if I got 15 minutes to speak to you, what's the learning objective? What am I trying to accomplish? But I literally answered a text just this morning to do with real estate. Somebody was asking, then it was like, the buyer is asking this, this is the answer. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so let me just give you, so what happened, the conversation looked like this. I don't care what they ask. I just know what I'm going to tell them. Okay. Like I'm not interested in, and it's not that that's a little bit on the, you know what I mean? I don't mean that to sound condescending or arrogant. I mean that to say, like, I'm a politician, no matter what they ask, if I were to be trying to sell you a house, no matter what you asked, I might give you an inkling as to the answer, but I'm going to tell you what I want to tell you, which is how many offers have already come through, how busy we are, how many of the people that actually did come through, how much they love the house. How we think that we're going to comfortably getting over asked. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to be talking about everybody. Nobody could believe how beautiful the suite was downstairs or the back, whatever, the ocean view. That's the answer I'm giving them. So just think of poker, right? When Road Dogg and I are playing poker and then, I ask him a question. I know I am horrible at poker, by the way, so it shouldn't be. But my dad was a professional poker player, and I have sat beside him and watched him, and I'm positive of this when you're playing poker. They don't give you anything. They don't give you the opposite either, because again, by the breath, the speed of your breath, by your Adam's apple, you'd be amazed at what they can get. Out of sitting there, like you've watched poker on TV. And somebody's just staring at somebody for 2 or 3 minutes, and you're like, the guy hasn't moved. This is stupid. Just make your decision. And that you'd be categorically incorrect. Or it just hasn't happened yet. And that's why he's continuing to sit there and stare. And that's why they have the time clock. Because if they didn't, they would just sit there on a stare off, when one guy had the bluff and the other guy had aces type of thing. So anyways, like Road Dogg, it's a little like you asked, if somebody's asking questions, how do you do that? Again, I already know what I want my answers to be. That might be a bad example there, because I would definitely honor the question and go into, in a dynamic like that, generally speaking, not black and white. But what's important is that there's certain things that I want to say, and I'm going to bloody say them. The end. I don't think that most people are thinking along those lines and that type of a dynamic. So framework prior to getting started. And if you want an example of this, and again, I literally think we talked about it last week, but it's not a surprise to anybody listening to this. It's like the politician. No matter what they ask, they just, you see it in the debates all the time, right? No matter what gets asked, they go in they answer the way that they want to answer. So there you go, Shoots. How's that? What do you think? You like? Make sense?
I think the most important piece of advice right there, ladies and gentlemen, if you were paying attention, was you can sit and watch poker, you can sit and listen to people playing poker, and you can still suck at playing poker. So unless you're actively doing it, forget about it. Right?
When Road Dogg and I have played poker, let me just tell you, everybody, I told the guy next time, he said, do you want to play? I said, buddy, you should be sending a limo to my house is what you should be doing. You shouldn't be asking me. You should be doing what it takes to get me to the next poker game.
And here's the red hot tip for playing poker with Karl. Okay, here it is. Guaranteed move number 1 by Karl Bryan on any poker game. I'm all in. All in. First hand, no matter 100%. What. Like it's
100%.
It's
they don't know.
You're trying to posture yourself at the table, but the problem is losing and having to rebuy by the second hand isn't helping your cause. All right, folks.
Oh, my goodness.
Listen, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with poker legend Karl Bryan. And if you're not on the inside and getting more poker tips or business coaching tips would probably be better for you, or getting his daily emails, the profit acceleration software, the group coaching software. Holy smokes, there's a lot going on. Visit focused.com and subscribe today. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please share with a fellow coach or someone that you think might actually enjoy our sense of humor. And of course, we'd appreciate, as always, if you'd rate this episode, as we know that all the streaming services give a tremendous amount of weight towards those reviews. So please leave us a review if you like what you heard. And that is it for another week, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.